God, this irritates the fuck out of me. So Jimmy, whom I love and respect, and one of my favorite people to pay attention to, did a yet another interview with that fucking moron Stoller, Matt Stoller, or Matt Stasi, uh, or Matt SS. Uh, this this fucking guy is a clown. He's got no legitimacy. He has some things right, but he completely obliterates his own thinking in the very next sentence. Jimmy, pointed out that Jack Ma, the guy who's basically Jeff Bezos, the Jeff Bezos of China, and in Asia, has stated, as many clear-thinking people have put out, is that it wasn't China who sent their who convinced Western corporations to send over their manufacturing and production capabilities. It was the decision of the Western corporations, and they were aided and abetted by the political arm, getting incentives to do so. Just as Mexico is not responsible for corporations doing the same, or Central America, or South America, or India, or other places. And Stoller is basically calling the Chinese government Nazis. And he's trying to make it sound like they're worse than the actual Nazis. Okay, first of all, China has not used any military force. Any military force to do what Stoller calls expansionism. You know what the Chinese have been doing? Is they've been sending their people around the world and allowing and liberalizing the ability of Chinese to move to go out and basically move somewhere else, and so on and so forth. They've been doing this for quite some time, and they're taking their culture and ideas with them. Now that's a smart way. If you want to do colonialism sort of thing, that's a smart way to do it. You don't. It doesn't get. It doesn't involve guns or bombs or whatnot. Not to say that. Not to say that. Not to say that I agree. I agree with the with any nefarious motives behind it, but as a peaceful way, that's a pretty damn good idea. Of course, the Chinese have the Hans particularly, because that's whom seems to be doing a lot of the expansion. They have a tendency to be much like the white nationalists in America. They have a tendency to, if you send a white nationalist anywhere in the world, even if it's not their country, they're gonna take that attitude of, hey, we are superior, we are we are, we know better. We're superior. They're gonna take that attitude, and it doesn't matter where they are. And this has been proven out because the Chinese Hans have been attacked in other countries because of their rhetoric, because of their arrogance. Uh, they brought it upon themselves. Um, but Stoller likes to. So I will give Stoller that point, but China is not sending its military forces all over the world. China doesn't have 800 to over 1,000 U.S. Military bases all over the world, particularly surrounding China, South Korea, Japan. They have they have entire naval battle groups in the Middle East, which is also known as Central Asia. The military cooperation that the U.S. is working with India, as well as other Western countries. It's and Stoller's trying to make it. They're trying to take over the world. Where? Where are they trying to take over the world? Where? Who is doing all in history? When has China invaded into Europe? Or into the Americas? When? Can't name a history of that happening. But what has the West done? The West has been invading nonstop since the colonial era. And the U.S. has just become just a primary player. So, who's the aggressive authoritarians? Who's the one with nefarious plans for world domination? Is it China, who did the smart thing and allowed the West? I don't like the exploitation. I don't condone allowing the exploitation of your public, of the people that you need, the backbone of a country. But they did the smart thing, and that's because at the time they were not in a position. Could the Chinese allow the exploitation but put in measures to mitigate the exploitation, the effects of the exploitation? That they certainly could have. Then they didn't do it. And they're still not doing it. If I was a Chinese leader, I would have been like, "Hey, come right in. Go ahead, do what you got to do." And then I would have done measures to mitigate while allowing the West to make it look like they're getting what they want. I would have, like, for instance, I would have set up housing for those exploited workers. I would have made sure that they got food and other basic necessities while extracting concessions from the Western corporations and Western corporations to get, which is what they did. Which is what they did. And as a leader, and as a representative of a country, that's what you should be doing. So that you can use what you extract to make your country better. And for all of that, somehow Stoller thinks that China is the preeminent threat, that they're the premier Nazis of the time. Except the Nazis actually went all over the fucking world on a killing spree. The British Empire went all over the fucking world in a killing spree. The Spanish Empire, all over the world in a killing spree. The Portuguese, the French, the Italians, Germans, the Dutch. I wonder what in history, besides the Mongols, who aren't Chinese, have they gone all over the fucking world, pillaging and plundering, killing fucking millions upon millions of people? And in the histories in the U.S., they neglect to mention that they knew about biological warfare or spreading pestilence way back. They knew about this, even during the quote unquote Dark Ages. They knew about pestilence. They didn't know that it was microbial, that you couldn't see it with a naked eye, but they knew of it. And one of the reasons is because it was the Mongols used that. They would use pestilence-ridden dead bodies of humans and animals and toss it in to cities, knowing that it would spread pestilence. So they knew about this sort of shit. The Roman Empire knew about it. The Greeks knew about it. The Europeans knew about it. The Russians knew about it. I mean, the fact that they were spreading pestilence-ridden smallpox and other blankets to the indigenous of the Americas, knowing that it was contaminated with pestilence and spreading it out, so that it would spread smallpox, so that it would kill as many as possible, knowing that they were already inoculated from it. So how many examples of that do we hear about in our history? But most people don't even know what half the shit I'm talking about here. Why? Because they have no imagination. They have no curiosity. They have no wanting to know what's going on. But that's the unique thing is that in other countries, in many other countries that are not Western countries, they know about this sort of shit. They have a more truer historical record because they've been educated and taught this sort of shit. Is there bias put in? Yes. Is there half truths or spin? Yes, but more of it is clearer than the picture that we in the West are taught. Why? Because the West is one of those. Oh, black is white, and white is black. That's basically in a nutshell. Everybody else are the bad people. Everything else is the bad thing, and the only good are those in the West. And this is the propaganda, the core of the propaganda that's played out in the West. And the Roman Empire was a West. It was a Western civilization. It's been going on like this. You know, people like to think that the Middle East and Turkey and okay, Central Asia, basically Central Asia, which includes Kazakhstan and all those other places, right? Which are predominantly white. I'm not calling it a race because there is that whole concept is just stupid. But cosmetically speaking, a lot of them, if they had names like Matt Banks or Stephen Miller or a Western sounding name, right? And they lived in Central Asia or Northern Africa or in the Baltic regions, which includes Greece, or the Mediterranean, which also includes Greece, Turkey, and all. Gee, there wouldn't be an issue. And in some ways, there aren't any issues, at least with the elites, the economic, the financial, and religious, and there really isn't a big difference to them. They can see because cosmetically speaking, they can see some uniformity. Now, this is something. This is something that, like the Hans. They're not terrible people, but they also do a lot of crap that is similar to what happens in the West. But one thing they aren't doing is this whole thing of a multi-spectrum violence, with sanctions, with embargoes, and military force and military force projection. That's not what the Chinese do. Haven't done in centuries. Now the Chinese have come to one conclusion. Something that they learned, that the Japanese learned, but the Japanese learned it and decided not just that force projection wasn't enough, that they needed to take it the next step and basically, go on a conquering spree and just, kill whoever and whatever to get control. That hammer, the hammer, and everything else is a nail. And the Chinese have learned that you need to have a military so you can do force projection, and that technology and advance in military technology is important. to deter aggressors and to say, hey, if you do that, we're we're keeping up to you. We're trying to go beyond you, and we will defend. That's what any reasonable, responsible representative government should be doing. Because violence is a factor in all of human history. There is always going to be an aggressor. And if you do not keep up and try to go beyond, you will become a target. That's a historical truth. So, that's a lesson, interesting. That's a lesson that the Greek Macedonians learned with Philip II, who taught that principle to his son Alexander III. The Macedonians learned that military tactics and military innovation was important. But, Philip and Alexander also did the same thing that the Japanese did when learning this factor. They went out to conquer, pillage, and plunder, and basically take control. But the Chinese haven't done that. Even in modern times, even though they have probably the third, if not possibly the second most powerful military force in the world, both in size of the military and in technological advancements, they're not. So that should tell you, that should give you a clue. They're not sending their military weapons and military infrastructure like their Navy and the Air Force. They're not sending it all over the fucking world. They're not demanding that other nations submit to them building military installations, such as the U.S. has, such as France, such as Spain, not Spain, such as France has, because France still has a foreign legion. And they have roving bands all over the place. Now, China isn't doing this. There's a lot of things that the Chinese government does bad. But there are a lot of good things that they're actually doing. Because they're being more rational. They're being more rational players. That cannot be said of the Western countries, no matter who. The Swiss aren't rational players. That whole neutrality thing is bullshit. The Dutch, the Norwegian, they're more rational. They're a little bit more rational. But they have, domestically speaking, they're better for their domestic population. Outside of that, not so much. Not so much. Canadians, the Canadian government, bullshit. Complete bullshit. The whole Canadians being utter bullshit. Utter crap. So if you just look at the way I just put it, you can only come down to one conclusion: that Matt Stoller is full of shit, and either he's being ideologically driven to be to ignore, so therefore build ignorance, and therefore spread propaganda and spread hate and fear, or he's just a complete not a fucking moron and shouldn't have a platform at all to spout his fucking nonsense. But this is the case. I mean, Matt Stoller and Tim Pool and some others like Dave Rubin, they're supposed to be these moderate liberal types. But they're all bullshit. They're just as bad as Ben Shapiro is. They're just as bad as those in the right wing. You know, the far right wing outlets. Liberals or neoliberals and neoconservatives, they're one and the same, with only a small semantic difference. That's it. It's all semantics, and semantics means hey, you can go either way. You know, there's no hard rule. It's how I feel that particular day. Oh, what actually triggers me? That's what it comes down to. There are no fucking differences. I hear liberal and I hear conservative, I feel, piss off. That's what I get. You're a liberal, you're a conservative, piss off. Go fuck yourself. Go fucking die. That's what I get. That's how I feel. And it doesn't matter where you fucking live. If you're a liberal over in fucking South Korea, or a conservative and stuff, go fucking piss off and die. And I'm South Korean. I was born in South Korea. If you're in Japan, you go fuck off and die. If you're in India and you're thinking that way, go fuck off and die. If you're in fucking Brazil and you're thinking that way, go fuck off and die. Vietnam, go fuck off and die. France, Germany, Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, Slovenia, Kazakhstan, in the fucking Middle East, in Northern Africa or Africa. You think that way? Go fuck off and die. That's the way I look at it. Because that is the only way you can look at it. Because it is those who often have the levers of power. Because the rest of us do not have the courage to say, go fuck off and die. Who do not have the clear thinking and understand that we must be intolerant of such things, and come out and say, go fuck off and die. That is how you look at it. And you force project by saying, go fuck off and die. And if necessary, bring out weapons to force project. If necessary, take action to force project and put the fucking fear into them. That is the way the world should work. Is to have a clear vision of what is right and what is wrong and what is bullshit, and how that bullshit is a danger to the world at large, and I'm not talking just humans, I'm talking about the actual natural world. The attitude we should have and the clarity we should have is go fuck off and die. You spread your bullshit. You think your bullshit, and you believe that bullshit, and you serve yourself through that bullshit. Go fuck off and die. That is how we do it.